start. Okay.
Okay. Hi, I'm Anita,
Hi, I'm Lillian.
and we are Sustainable Success. Sustainable Success is a project that we started last year. Well, started at the beginning of this year, our junior year, and the objective of this project is to encourage important discussions and conversations about mental health and sustainable habits within the student body. Today, we want to talk a little bit about motivation, our experience with it, and how you can find motivation during cyber school and beyond. So let's begin with recognizing the two different types of motivation, intrinsic and extrinsic motivation. So as you can see on the screen, intrinsic motivation refers to behaviors that are driven by internal rewards, such as the love for learning or the passion to pursue a certain interest of yours. Meanwhile, extrinsic motivation refers to behavior that is driven by external rewards, such as money, fame, grades, praise, etc.
Okay, so a lot of psychologists actually believe that it's not that great for us to solely depend on extrinsic motivation. And this is for two reasons. The first one is something called the over justification effect. And this effect takes place when you place too much external reward or pressure for doing a certain activity. And after that external pressure is taken away, you no longer feel the same drive and interest to carry out that activity for your own good. And the second reason why extrinsic motivation isn't always the best is that it often puts a lot of pressure on us. Because if you think about it, if you're always doing something only because you want to achieve a certain grade, or if you want to do something only for the extrinsic value, then it's a lot of pressure to put on yourself. And contrary to what you might believe, we actually don't work the best under pressure because it causes a lot of stress. And if we don't deal with it correctly, then it can really influence how we work, and it can really influence our mood. And now we're going to talk about why a lot of psychologists think intrinsic motivation is better. So firstly, it is a lot more resilient, which means that it can persevere through more challenges and you can remain motivated over a longer period of time. Because people with intrinsic motivation can actually see the value behind all of their work and all of their daily tasks. And this makes sure that they are always motivated to keep doing so. And another reason why intrinsic motivation is good is because it's self-sustaining. So this means that regardless of how much external reward or pressure you get, you would still always enjoy doing that activity. And this is really good because that means that you don't have to be super caught up by what other people are saying and by other people's opinions, and you will always have that internal passion that drives you to do the things that you love.
So now that we know a little bit about each kind of motivation, let's talk a little bit about why finding motivation is so important. So a personal testimony of ours is actually the creation of Sustainable Success, our project. So as you can probably tell, Lillian and I are extremely passionate about psychology and about mental health, and we're always excited to discuss the different ways that we can encourage important conversations amongst the high school student body. We also genuinely believe in our message and the significance of our message. However, we're still able to work on this project despite many hardships. Sustainable success is a lot of work. We have to do a lot of writing, research, presenting, and at some times it can be very challenging and discouraging. But because our love for psychology and our passion for promoting mental health is so strong, we're able to overcome those challenges and look at the value behind this project, which is encouraging those discussions and having people open up about what's really important to them. If our motivation for doing sustainable success was extrinsic, such as for college or for praise, I strongly believe that we wouldn't be able to do as much as we have done with this project.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And we also think that the topic of intrinsic motivation is really related to our virtual school experience, because now that so many of us are studying from home, it's really easy to lose focus and to lose motivation at times, especially for the people that love working with others and love different classroom dynamics. So this is a time where intrinsic motivation is really, really important. And I feel like in my own experience, having intrinsic motivation towards subjects that I really like really helped me to get through this period, still with the same drive for academic achievements. I feel like once I see the purpose of why I have to do certain activities for a class or certain assignments, like once I see the purpose behind it, it makes it so much easier for me to commit to doing it and try to do it to the best that I can. So Anita and I really think that this is a really good time for us, since we're all at home, it's a good time for us to think about what really motivates us and what really sparks joy in us. And it's a time where we can kind of do some self-discovery and find our own unique intrinsic motivation, so that when we go back to school, when we go back to the normal life, we can use that intrinsic motivation to fuel even more projects and to fuel even more fun activities for ourselves. So now Anita is going to talk about some of the things that you could do to cultivate your intrinsic motivation.
So Lillian and I outlined some tips to help those who are struggling to maintain their motivation throughout cyber school or throughout the school year. So feel free to screenshot these tips or write them down so you can access them easily later. The first tip is to surround yourself with people who are also motivated. So as someone who values my friendships very highly, this one is extremely important to me. I made it a goal this school year to be more intentional with the people I surround myself with. I want my friends to be um, hardworking people who take initiative and who are supportive of my passions. Of course, it's also very important to be that friend for your friends as well. So the second tip is to pursue your passions or what you're already intrinsically motivated to do. So like I mentioned earlier, sustainable success is one of those for the two of us. We're very passionate about psychology and about mental health, and sustainable success was the outlet that we were able to pursue our passion in psychology. Next, don't be afraid to talk to parents, teachers, and counselors. High school is really about taking initiative, and reaching out to trusted adults is definitely one way to do that. And one of the things that I will miss the most when I graduate is having those relationships with my teachers and with my counselors. Talking to a trusted adult and hearing their encouragement and support can be very motivating, as I'm sure we've all experienced before. And the last two tips are pretty similar. Um, it's about incorporating your motivation into your environment. So when you're working, it's very important to find a place where you can really focus and be in the zone. Finding a place where you aren't distracted, combined with finding a place that has a reminder of your motivation. And of course, you can take the initiative to make that. So whether it's writing down what you're motivated by on a piece of paper and putting it on your desk somewhere that you'll be able to see it when you're working, or printing out a picture of someone you admire, someone you're inspired by, those little things can really help in enforcing your motivation and can really make a difference when you're feeling unmotivated.
Okay, so now we're going to talk about some of the questions that you can ask yourself when you're feeling unmotivated. So the first one is kind of a really big question, and it's, what kind of person do I want to be? And it doesn't, like, the answer to this question doesn't need to be super specific. It can be something more general and value-based. So you can say, I want to be someone that's helpful, or I want to make positive contributions to the society, or I want to make other people happy, or just like simpler and more broader goals. And I think having these broader values behind your work can really make you feel like you're contributing to something larger. And this makes the smaller, mundane tasks in your life a lot more meaningful. And I think this tip really helped me in the past month to like keep track on my academics as well as like other outside responsibilities. So yeah, as I just explained, the second question is, how do my daily actions connect to these values? So sometimes I'm sure we all feel that at times like certain homework assignments don't really seem meaningful and they just seem really boring and tedious. For example, like I know math homework can get really exhausting sometimes, but I think it really helps to think about how these small things that you do during the day are building up towards something bigger. And even just something like math homework, it can still help you build a lot of skills that you might be able to use even if you're not going to be a mathematician. And I feel like doing math homework, it can help you become more patient and it allows you to think more logically about problems. So these are just like the small things that you learn from your daily tasks that you can always apply to your bigger goals and to your bigger values. So it's really important for you guys to kind of have those in mind and start thinking about what values really drive you. And the third question is, how did I feel the last time I accomplished something challenging? So I think we all know how invigorating it feels when you like accomplish something that you thought was super hard and super challenging. But as you are in that challenging environment, it can feel painful and it can feel a little miserable, but just you need to remind yourself of how proud you are when you do accomplish something challenging. And you should always try to kind of push yourself a little bit outside of your comfort zone, because that's the place where you can grow the most. And just take everything as a way to develop yourself, and just don't be discouraged by failures or being challenged, because ultimately once you go over that challenge, you would feel so much stronger and you would feel like you conquered something that you wouldn't have been able to do before. And the last question is, how can I be better at what I do? And this kind of relates to what Anita just said about pursuing your passions. So if you have something that you're already really passionate about, maybe just think about how you can further develop yourself according to that passion. So in our example, if we're both really passionate about psychology, then a good way to develop that passion is to start a service project together and to start applying that passion so that it can have real world influences. So yeah, these are the 4 questions that you can ask yourself when you want some extra motivation.
So to conclude, we want to invite you guys, if you have any questions, to reach out to us via our Instagram, which is on the screen. I hope that you guys learned something through our presentation and have the motivation to apply some of the concepts and some of the tips and questions that we discussed. Thank you.
Thank you.